Good morning, and as you can tell by the screen that I've got up now, I want to talk about Geforce Now. And Geforce Now has been around for a while now, but it's finally come out of beta, and that means there's two tiers, and we'll get to that in a moment, but basically you can either get it for free or you can pay for it. And for those of you who don't know, Geforce Now is a streaming service very much like Stadia or Xcloud. The main difference is that you don't actually buy the games through Geforce Now. The major selling point with Geforce Now is this: the games you own. And all these games that you can see here, these aren't games that you can get directly through Geforce Now. What you would do is you would get them through Steam or the Epic Game Store or EA Origin or Ubisoft Uplay or Blizzard Battle.net. And you get those games through those services, and if you own those games on those services, you should then be able to play them using Geforce Now. And yeah, it says here, you bought it, you own it. And one of the good things about that, and this is something that gives it an edge over a Stadia especially, is that obviously you've bought the games on Steam or Epic or wherever else. And so if Geforce Now for some reason stops working, or Geforce Now goes the way of the dodo, you've still got those games. So unlike Stadia, which if Stadia goes belly up, you've lost your games. Certainly at the moment, they haven't talked about any way of retrieving those games if Stadia goes down. With Stadia, you would lose the games. With Geforce Now, you wouldn't. Obviously, the flip side of that is that you have to have bought these games through another service, and that can get complicated, but we'll get to that in a moment. If you look here, it says join today. And when you go into the join option, you've got these two options. The first one's free and the second one's founders. Now, everyone seems to like founders these days. Oh, you're a founder member. Yeah, I'm part of the team. I don't know, is marketing trying to make you feel like you're part of the whole system, service, program, whatever? The reality is you're still just a customer. But anyway, let's get on with it. The free version offers you standard access. And what that basically means is that you go to the back of the queue when it comes to streaming. So those people over there on the founders will get priority access over you. And you only get 1 hour session length. And what that means is you can play the game for an hour and then you'll get kicked. Now you can go straight back in and start playing again. But if you're playing an online game, that could get very old very quickly. So it's not going to be much use for that. The other thing as well is if you've forgotten to save, presumably you could be in trouble. I don't know. I've not tried the free version, so anyone who's tried the free version and got kicked, let me know. Do you get kicked or do you get the option to save before you get kicked? On the Founders Edition, no, and frankly, it's $4.99 a month, so it's not a huge amount of money. On the Founders Edition, you get priority access, which means you go to the front of the queue above those poor people on the free tier. You get extended session length, which also means that you can play for longer. You don't just get that restricted hour. Now, I've heard that it's 4 hours, and I've also heard that it's 6 hours. At this stage, I'm not absolutely sure. I've not played it long enough to find out for myself. But it's between 4 and 6 hours. And that, for most average gamers, I think that would be absolutely perfectly adequate. I don't generally play for more than a couple of hours at a time maximum these days. So, you know, I mean, if you're maybe a hardcore gamer, it might be a problem. But for most of us, it's not going to be, is it? The other thing that's a real advantage over everybody else at this stage, now I can imagine that Xcloud will have this later on down the line when we move into Xbox Series X. But for now, Geforce Now is the only streaming service that offers this, and that's RTX. Now, that's all very exciting, but don't get your panties in too much of a pickle because there are a limited number of games. I do know for certain that we've got Metro Exodus, which is available through the Epic Game Store. We've got Wolfenstein Youngblood, which is available through both Epic and Steam, and isn't all that great from all accounts. And a game called Deliver Us the Moon, which is an indie game that goes for about 20 quid, $25. And I've had a quick look at that. I haven't actually played it yet, but it looks like quite a good game, and I think RTX will work really well on that. The other one that I noticed that they have, and this is because it's free on Steam, is Quake 2 RTX. And we'll get to that in a bit because that's quite exciting. So anyway, look, that's what you've got. You've got the free tier, you've got the $4.99 tier, and basically you have to own the games within Steam or the Epic Game Store, Ubisoft, EA, Blizzard, so on and so forth. Now, GOG at the moment is not supported, and Green Man Gaming isn't supported as far as I'm aware either. Maybe they'll be added later down the line. But those are the options you've got currently. I think $4.99 a month isn't bad, but you have to, think about it. $4.99 for the service, not for any games. It's not much different than Stadia in that sense, though. You get a few free games with Stadia, a couple of free games with Stadia now, I think. But you're paying 15 quid for Stadia? And then you have to buy the games on top. And you could lose them. So GeForce Now definitely has the edge there, I would say. But anyway, let's just get into the actual GeForce Now app. And I should have it up here. And there you go. We're into the GeForce Now app. And it all looks very clean and not much else to see, really. That's it. That's all you get to start with. Now, if you go up into settings, you can see here we've got the various options. The most important one's going to be streaming quality. Now we've got balanced, data saver, competitive, and custom. Balanced, if we go into details, it's set as auto, 1920 by 1080. Now this will only max out at 1080 currently. It's not going any higher than that. You're not going to get 4K out of this. 60 frames per second though. And it says adjust for poor network and VSync. And you can't change these here because it's set according to the balanced layout. Data saver, if you go into the details there, is max bandwidth is 12 megabits per second, which is not particularly high. Resolution 720p. So that's quite low. And frame rate is still at 60. And you've got these two are on as well again. Now, competitive, again, we go into details on there. 720 again, but this time it ups it to 120 frames per second. So if you want to try that and see if you get a better, a smoother gameplay experience, then that might be worth playing with as well. Now, this is on PC. I don't know whether these options are available on mobile phone as well. And obviously you'd need a phone that could handle 120 frames per second. But it could be quite interesting to play around with that as well. And I might look into this myself a bit down the line. And then on custom, you can obviously go in and change these. You've got it on auto for max bitrate. You can change that. You could go in and you can mess around with your bitrate. And at the moment it's 34 megabits per second. And basically, let's cancel that. It gives you lots of different options. So you can change the FPS down to 30. That might give you it might not be so juddery. If you go down to 30, because your bandwidth isn't all that great, it might make things better. I'd run it at 60 if you can, obviously. Adjust for poor network conditions. I don't know why you would turn that off. VSync, you could play around with that, I suppose. But that's the settings for streaming quality. I'm currently on balanced. I'll leave it on there because there's not a great deal that I want to change on that. That sits pretty well for me. And when I've been playing, it seems to run pretty smoothly. So that's that. You can mess around with Discord and all the rest of it. You've got my GeForce Now membership. It's currently the founders membership, which is, I'm in on the ground floor. I'm one of the cool guys because I'm a founder. Yeah, right. Okay. But anyway, so that there's not an awful lot to change in terms of the settings. You can go in and you can change the server, why you would want to do that, because it should set you with the best server for you. But, if that server's down or there's a problem, you might be able to change that. Should do it automatically for you because it's set on auto. But that's about it for the settings. And then when you go into here, you've got two different selections. You've got My Library and you've got Featured. Now, My Library, you might think of the games that you own, but they're not, because this is not really that clever. It doesn't kind of parse your Steam library and see what games you've got and then stick it in your library. What it does is when you run a game, it sticks it in there. Now, where it can get a bit annoying is that if you try and run a game and it's one that you don't own, it will still stick it in your library. And then, so you've got it in your library. Now you can, if you click on it, you can go in and you can remove it from your library by clicking on the little minus sign here, and that'll sort it out. But it can be a little bit irritating and a little bit annoying. The featured section is as bloody annoying as well. And in conjunction with the search, I'll explain what I mean. If we go into see more, this gives you a selection of presumably curated games that Nvidia think are games you might want to play. Now, these aren't games that you necessarily own. You might not. And if you go into a game, if you click on it, it doesn't give you any information about whether you own it or not. Again, this is an irritant for me because I would like to be able to click on this and say it's in my Steam library, or, you know, it's in my Epic Games library or whatever. But no, it doesn't do that. You only find it out when you try and go in and play it. So if we click on play here, it says, do you own this game? Geforce Now lets you play your games on our cloud servers. The first time you play, you'll be asked to sign into the account you used to access the game. So if I click on continue, it'll try and sign me in. And where's it signing me into? Where's this game coming from? Let's have a look. It's coming from Steam. So if we look here now, it's taking me into Steam and it's asking me to add it to the cart. This is actually different to yesterday. I was finding it was kicking me straight out yesterday. So it's asking me to buy the game because I don't own the game. So that's quite good there. I like that. That's not too bad. Again, I would like to know before I have to load up Steam to find out. If we go out of here and out of here, it'll take us back. And yeah, so that's all very well. If I go into, let me see, if we go into a game, I don't know where's there a game on the, this is the problem, you see. I don't know which games are on the Epic Game Store and which games are on Steam. And it gets really annoying. Metro, where's Metro? If we do, is that? That's Metro Redux. I want Metro Exodus. Let's just do a search for Metro Exodus. Because that is... Do you own the game? Let's carry on. That is in the Epic Game Store. So why is that not doing anything? Let's do that again. Metro Exodus. Let's do play. There we go. It's trying to load up this time. And I don't own Metro Exodus. Well, I own it, but I own it on the Xbox. I don't own it on my PC. And it's trying to load up the Epic Game Store. And it's asking me to log into the Epic Game Store. Now, I'm not going to log in here, but if you log in here, it'll then kick you out anyway, because because you don't own the game, it doesn't allow you to go in and access the game, so you kind of end up being stuck. So, as I say, I'm not going to log in here now, but basically what will happen is when I log in, it'll kick me back anyway. And I end up back here anyway. So that's a bit of a pain in the neck. And yeah, if we get out of here and go back, as you can see, it's put these two in my library now. So now I've got to click on them. And I've got to remove them from my library. Why I can't just play them without sticking them in my library is beyond me. And so, yeah, like I say, what you've got to do in effect is you've got to guess and work out which games you own. And you could be spending an awful lot of time going through here, typing in games, trying to find the game that you own that you can run and, you know, everything's fine. And yeah, that is a pain in the neck. The other thing is, as you can see down here, I've got Steam in my library. So you can actually go in and you can do a search for Steam itself. And as you can see, it comes up. So you can actually do a search for Steam, and then you can add it to your library, and then you can go into Steam and it'll load up, it should do. And what will happen is it'll load up and you'll actually have an instance of Steam that looks exactly like the instance of Steam that you would normally have on your desktop. And that's pretty good. And it shouldn't ask me to log on this time, because once you've logged into something the first time, it should take you in automatically after that. Now, if you go into a Steam game and you log on, and then you go into Steam and you've never logged onto Steam itself before, it will ask you for a logon. And same with every game. If you go into a game independently without going through Steam first, it'll ask you to log on. So anyway, as you can see, we've got Steam up here and it's all working really well. The only problem is not all of these games are going to run. And this brings me to the next bit. There's an awful lot of games in my Steam library, but when you go through them, most of them won't work. And I'll show you what I mean. If I click on Crysis here, and I do install, this is installing it to the Nvidia servers. In fact, it's probably, if the game is workable, it's probably already on the Nvidia servers. It's not like you have to do it. They'll already be on there. But if it's not, this is what happens. So I'm going to click next, and then I'm going to click agree. And then you get this. Crysis isn't supported. We are continuously adding new games, and we've noted that you're interested in this one. Supported games can be launched directly from the Geforce Now app. So yeah, you can load them directly from the Geforce app, but if we go out of this again, yes, I do. I want to go back. As I was saying before, not all the games are showing. So you have to do a search for the game, basically knowing what games you've got. And if you do a search for a game and it's a game you don't own, then obviously it's going to ask you to buy the game. But this gets very convoluted and complicated and is a real pain in the neck, because on the one hand you've got a load of games that you can search for that are on the service, some of which you're not going to own, and then you've got games that you own that aren't going to run on the service. So I was getting very, very frustrated with this yesterday when I was trying to go through this and trying to work out what games I had that worked. And it gets worse still, because even when you find a game that is on Steam or Epic or wherever, and you go to play it, you may find you run into trouble. Now, you're not going to run into trouble really if you're running it on a PC. Even if it's a low-powered PC, because obviously all the grunt work's being done in the cloud. But for instance, if we look at Armour here, I'm not going to load it up, I'm just going to talk about it. Armour is designed to run on a PC with keyboard and mouse. It's not really designed to work with a controller, and in fact I'm pretty certain it doesn't work at all with a controller. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But if you try and load this game up on a mobile phone, the Geforce Now app is available on phone, or if you try and load it up on the Nvidia Shield, which I've got in the lounge, I had this with the beta when I tried it on the Nvidia Shield. You're going to run into trouble because it's designed to run with keyboard and mouse. It doesn't work properly on the Nvidia Shield when you're trying to use a controller. So again, it doesn't really tell you what games are available that work with a controller. Now, if we go into here and you see more, we've got all these games here, and it doesn't really give us the option to search according to whether it runs with a controller or not. Now, you can actually do that on the Shield. You can actually limit the search so that it shows only games that work with a controller. So that's handy. But yeah, those three elements. One, you're not sure whether the game's going to run if you've got it and it's on the store. Two, you may have it on Steam, but it's not available through Geforce Now. Or three, it's available through Geforce Now, but you don't own it, and there's no real way of finding out until you try and run it. So the way this is laid out at the moment, is a pain in the neck, and Nvidia don't have a full list of games that run with the service. Now, I did find one the other day. I went through I was doing some research on this, and I went through and I found an article which I'll put a link into. And in the article, there is an addendum to the article where they mentioned there is a list that you can get, but it's quite hard to, decipher it and work out what games are actually available. And if I can, I'll put a link into that list as well. But Nvidia certainly don't make it easy for us to find out which games are available on the service. And then, like I say, you don't really know which games you've got that are going to run and so on and so forth. So it is a bit clunky at the moment. And that's a downside with this service, because you're running it from other services, from, Steam and Epic Game Store and places like that. It's not guaranteed that the games are going to work. And so, or even be available. Like I say, I mean, if you look at EA and Origin and Ubisoft, then most of their games aren't available as it stands. And so that's a pain in the neck as well. So, yeah, I've seen, some YouTubers out there making out that this is some sort of, holy grail of streaming. And frankly, it's not. I mean, it's going to be very attractive to you if you've got a large Steam library, or you've got a large Epic library, or one of the other services. But you need to take a step back and try and find out which games you've got in your library will run with this before you start paying for it, because you could find out that you've only got 2 or 3 games. Having said all that, though, and I know I've moaned on about that a bit, and I genuinely do think this is a pain the way this is laid out. Just give us a full list of the games that are available, and then make it so that we can see which ones, we can play because we own them. It shouldn't be that difficult. Surely you can talk to the Steam app, or you can talk to the Epic Game Store or whatever, and actually just list this game is on, you own this game on Epic, or you own this game on Steam, or whatever. I don't know, maybe it is difficult to do. But if you can sort it out, GeForce, if you can sort it out, Nvidia, please bloody sort it out. Because at the moment, it's a pain in the arse. As I say, though, having said all that, once you get into a game and you get it up and running, well, it actually works really well. Now, the other thing as well, if you look here, I've got Quake RTX, or Quake 2 RTX. If I go in to play it, this is something I haven't got on my computer. So this game is only available to me in this form through GeForce Now at the moment, because I don't have a 2080 Ti and a machine with all the bells and whistles on for running RTX. So I can actually do real-time ray tracing with this, and it works pretty well. And they probably need to sort this out the way with the loading and stuff. But once we're in, there you go. It looks like you're running a native version of the game. I'm not. It says spotty connection. Keep saying that, even though I seem to get a pretty smooth connection when I'm actually playing it. If we go into options, we've got various options. Go into graphics settings. As you can see here, we've got RTX. You can do RTX or OpenGL. I'm going to go with RTX and escape out of that, and escape out of that, and go into the game. And let's do medium. And as you can see, it's loading up. 1920 by 1080. And as you can see here, we've got the RTX effects. Look at this. Yeah, can you see that? That's an RTX effect. So you've got the RTX lighting. And it does add to the game. Now, let's see if we can go in and change the options to OpenGL. Where are we? Graphics settings. Change that to OpenGL. It may be that it needs me to... Yeah, there you go. That's what it looks like with OpenGL. A lot flatter. Doesn't have the same look to it. And so let's go back in again. Options. graphics settings and change that back to RTX. And it's going to reinitialize again. And this is all running off Nvidia's servers, let's not forget. And there you go. And that is a much different effect. And as you can see, you can actually see me with my silly animation that you got in Quake. And if we blow that up, yeah, that's looking pretty nice. So yeah, and you know, as you can see, this is running pretty smoothly. Yeah, never mind my rubbish gameplay. But yeah, as you can see, this runs quite smoothly. Is there a guy behind here? Oh no, there isn't. There was. He's come and got me already. I've killed him already. Oh, there's a guy down there though. Didn't do that quick enough, did I? But yeah, this is all looking pretty nice. And I could sit here playing this all day. Let's just kill this guy around the corner if he's here. There you go. And out of here. Oh, missed it. Oh, what a pain. Anyway, look, let's get out of that. Quit the game. That looks pretty good. And that's the only way to get RTX if you don't have one of the newer Nvidia graphics cards currently. So that runs really well. And when I went in and I played Wreckfest yesterday as well, that worked well. Dusk, I played Dusk, and that played really well. And as you could see, I was hovering around about the 60 frames per second there with Quake RTX. And I know Quake's an old game, but the RTX, you know, give it a real hit. And that's come in from the GeForce servers. So, all the complaining about this aside, once you're actually into a game, in my experience now, obviously you're subject to the vagaries of the internet. And this could vary a lot from person to person. Now, I'm running this via a home plug into my router. And so it's a pretty good connection. Home plugs can vary, but my connection's pretty good from the lounge, which is where my router is, into the office, which is where my PC is. So it's a pretty good connection. And I get a pretty robust, pretty stable, and pretty fast connection. And if you're going to do it wirelessly, you might find it doesn't run as well. You know, and if you've got a poor connection or if you've got data caps, it's going to be an absolute pain in the neck because, you know, you go into these settings and, you know, if we go into the data here, you know, 12 megabits per second for the data saver, competitive, what we got there, not telling us on that one, but 34 megabits per second, and you can take it right up to 50 megabits per second. So, you know, you could be running an awful lot of data through your router and through your internet service provider. And if you've got a data cap, that's going to be a no-no, basically. It's going to kill this service for you. All those things aside, though, and with the wish that Nvidia sort this bloody out and get us a full list of games, you know, not just featured, maybe underneath featured, just full list. All the games available, then once you get into it and start playing, and I was having a blast with Wreckfest yesterday, it's a little bit laggy, but it's not anything. Well, you saw me playing Quake RTX. It was pretty smooth, and it's very, very playable indeed. And I can't compare it to Stadia because I haven't played it. But I have played around with Xcloud, and it compares very favourably to Xcloud. Now, I've only run Xcloud wirelessly on 5G, and I tried it with 2.5, even though they tell you not to. Don't do it on 2.5. It just doesn't run. It's like watching a slideshow. But on the 5G or 5 gigahertz network wireless, it worked really, really well most of the time. I did have a couple of times when it was a bit, you know, jinky. But other than that, it worked pretty well. So again, I'm running that wirelessly, whereas I'm running this with a wired connection in effect. But yeah, this compared favorably to that. And in fact, it runs smoother wired. I don't know what Xcloud's going to run like when it's on PC and you've got it with an Ethernet connection or whatever. I would say both services run pretty well. As I said, can't compare it to Stadia. I have heard, though, that Stadia, all joking aside with Stadia, and I know I've been very critical of Stadia, I have heard that Stadia runs pretty smoothly for a lot of people if you've got a decent internet connection. But this, my experience with this is the interface is horrible. Trying to find games that actually work with it is a pain in the arse. But playing the games themselves, well, it's a joy, really. And I was really enjoying it. And I wouldn't be overly critical of the way the actual games run. I think Nvidia's done a very, very good job here. And I think with the added benefit of RTX as well, and we're going to get more games with RTX as it goes down the line, it's a great service. If you're prepared to pay that £5 a month and the games have to be bought from a different service, then yeah, it's pretty much a no-brainer, especially if you've got a really low-powered PC and you haven't got the money to buy a gaming PC. This could be worth doing for you. But anyway, I don't know what you think about this. Let me know in the comments. Will you be getting this? Do you think it's value for money? Do you like the idea that you're buying your games elsewhere? So if Geforce Now goes down the toilet, you've still got your games? Or would you rather that they actually sold the games on their own storefront? I mean, I'm in two minds about that. I like the way they're doing this, but the effect, the knock-on effect it has, as I've already said, with the way the menu works and finding games that actually will run is a pain in the arse. But you might not have that issue. You might find that most of your games run. I don't know. It depends on the games you've got, I suppose. Would you like to see this overhauled, this interface that we've got here to show us all the games? And yeah, do you prefer this to Stadia? Do you think it's better than Stadia? Do you prefer it to Xcloud? Will you be getting any of them? Do you think streaming is the future? Answers to all these questions and others, hopefully in the comments. Let me know. And we'll have a chat about it. And I'll speak to you in the next one. Bye.